Hector Dominguez. I'm the Open Data Coordinator. I'm also coordinating works on privacy, surveillance technologies, and other initiatives at the city. I'm doing policy making, trying to figure out ethical use of technology, digital rights, digital justice, the current development around the surveillance policy, with a lot of public engagement, and then trying to implement privacy and open data pipelines within the city. So the Open Data Program really was established a long time ago. The first one was in 2009, then it got a revision in 2017, which is the current ordinance that is ruling over the open data. And then this ordinance commits the city to the publication, open access, and widespread sharing of data collected and generated by the city and by all the interactions that the city has with the private sector, nonprofit organizations, academia, and other parties working on behalf of the city. Well, not all the data is the same, so we always need to make sure that the data is open and we have the right quality for the data to share. But what really is open data? Open data is that data that can be freely used, reused, and distributed by anyone. Open data protects privacy, assures quality and integrity, and facilitates collaboration. Open data is a bridge for transparency and public engagement. Open data empowers communities, definitely. So some time ago, and this is always being revised, open data is has some principles in which they guide us just to try to figure out what open data is. So open data needs to be public, so available to everyone. So data that is just stored in a server or somebody else's computer, that's not open data, definitely. Open data needs to be accessible. Open data, that means that people can find it. It has to be discoverable. They need to understand that which is described. It needs to understand what the data is about, what's the context of the data. It needs to be reusable. That means that the data has the proper licensing, for instance, has to be complete. So truncated data, incomplete data, something that does not describe what we are really trying to publish out there is not usable, simply. Has to be timely. All data, it can be not useful for many people. So we want to provide data that is in as much as possible at the right time that data is generated. Open data has to be managed after release and take care of that as well. People need to understand what's going on with open data. And in general, for organization, open data is open, could be by default, could be by preference. Here at the City of Portland, we have it by preference. So one of the biggest values of data in general is how linked is connected to other data sources, data sets, and that's where the linked data comes into play. People call that like semantic data as well. And we're trying, that's kind of the ultimate goal, that we understand where data is coming from, understanding data lineage, for instance, understanding what's behind the data, who is taking care of the data, what's the sourcing of, if it's derivative data, what's the sourcing of that, is there documentation around the data, definition, glossaries, name it. So in order to understand what data is, we have in the city, when it's open, we have some privacy and information protection principles that include transparency, accountability, equitable data use, full lifecycle stewardship, data openness, automated decision system, data utility, and ethical and non-discriminatory use of data. These principles actually are guiding us to understand what needs to be kept protected and private, while what needs to be can be open. So open data also has an infrastructure around it. So this graph more or less represents all the different branches that we're looking into, like policy and standards, for instance, where is the metadata, what kind of catalogs we are building with that data, privacy, licensing, and all that. We have the technical pieces of that, how data is being, how those policies are implemented, how data is being stored, do we have a data lake, do we have servers, do we have a system of records around the data, etc. And then the data inventory, which is really how we organize our data. Where can we find the data? Where, who is taking care of the data, which comes with other stewards and stewardship. And then in terms of city services, how that's connected with public records, like performance indicators for the city and city operations. Is that resource intense data, like data coming from sensors that are providing real-time information to different services, for instance. And what's the value proposition in terms of the business created around all that data? For that, we are creating also data pipelines for like this. That's work in progress. However, we are doing some steps forward towards that. We are collaborating with a local branch of Code for America. It's Code for PDX. So we have a number of volunteers working on this. We also collaborate and get the benefit of work with Portland State University, with Capstone project students who have developed in the past some proof of concepts and explore some of the ideas around building more robust data pipelines. Then open data can bring a lot of benefits, particularly in public records. Is well proved that it can significantly decrease the volume of requests received by cities in general, and make a robust open data program can be associated with graded benefits for public records. So open data in the city is really all distributed at this point. For instance, physical information, Portland maps, police, Pivot, all these different bureaus. And what we're trying to do is to get all that information in one point so people can find everything that the city has. So that's one of the biggest goals of our program. So every bureau is responsible for their own data. There is no central repository with data catalogs for bureaus. Open Data is collaborating right now with the corporate GIS team to implement a unique portal. We already have a draft for the Open Data Handbook, which is going to be reviewed and revised this year. And then we hope that very soon we can have an Open Data Portal live where more community engagement can happen. If you want to know more about open data, please contact me. My name is Hector Dominguez. My email is hector.dominguez@portlandoregon.gov. And you can also visit the Smart City PDX website.